gonna do a thing now.
He's actually got his car keys.
Okay, we're gonna do a thing now. It's like so we collect this yellow eco here, and then we're gonna go over here, and we're gonna do like a fireball hop, so it gives us a bit of extra height. So now we're just not gonna do anything. Just give me a donation. Just go.
$5 from Jeb Bush. Please clap.
What you just witnessed was the most famous GDQ run of Jak and Daxter ever, and it was also the run that got the runner Bonesaw577 actually banned from the event. Nobody knows why this run got Bonesaw banned from the event, as it was a very good run and most people enjoyed it a lot. Well, most people enjoyed it except the Jak and Daxter community. They did not enjoy it. Yes, the Jak and Daxter community hated this run, and for the next 4 years it would continue to haunt them and continue to plague them, so much that the Rixer actually made a 23-paragraph pastebin complaining about Bonesaw577, and he dedicated a lot of it to his run. The Rixer, a semi-popular speedrun YouTuber with over 25,000 subscribers on YouTube, actually made a pastebin titled The Untold Story of Bonesaw577, formatted in the exact same way as a lot of the Me Too stories that happened over the summer. When I saw this, I thought Bonesaw did something, and I thought there was going to be drama that I could report on, and that Bonesaw577 had abused somebody. I was wrong. Now guys, we're going to need a lot of alpha gamers to combat nonsense manipulation like what the Rixer is doing. I'm going to detail exactly how this is manipulation and this is ridiculous. I'm going to need you guys to subscribe, if you haven't already, to become an alpha gamer. If you are already an alpha gamer, make sure to like the video and comment your thoughts in order to grow the nation. The Untold Story of Bonesaw577. With all of the allegations surrounding various personalities in our gaming sphere, I started reflecting on any bad relationships that may have been swept under the rug after all these years. And without a doubt, Bonesaw577 was the only person that came up in my head. So already he's framed the conversation as Bonesaw did something bad. Bonesaw's a bad person. He is likening Bonesaw577 to actual abusers, two people that were both confirmed of abusing people or likely confirmed of abusing people. He's likening Bonesaw to people that have actually committed felonies, people that have had manipulative behaviors, and everything in between. He is someone I used to consider a friend, but now I don't know what I even view him as. Right, he's a bad person. Well, let's try to get into this twit longer. This first thing about this twit longer though, it's 23 paragraphs long. The other unfortunate part about it, it basically has nothing to do with Bonesaw. Bonesaw is mostly absent from it. Basically, the first 15 paragraphs, the Rixer complains that Bonesaw doesn't like the Rixer and doesn't want to be his friend and doesn't want to hang out with the Jak and Daxter community. Well, who cares? That doesn't matter at all. And it's completely Bonesaw's right to not hang out with the Jak and Daxter community and not like Rixer. And after reading this, I wouldn't want to be friends with the Rixer or its Roser either. They seem kind of unhappy people. They seem kind of like manipulative people. If you read the pastebin, you can kind of get to the root of the problem. The SGDQ run was over. The community was confused. The time of the run was over 30 minutes off the world record. Nobody on the couch was there to represent the game or the community. This is the issue that the Rixer and its Roser are having with Bonesaw and his run at GDQ. It was successful and they weren't getting attention for it. I find this a bit ridiculous, and I find it even more ridiculous that this is framed that Bonesaw abused somebody, or Bonesaw is being accused of abusing someone, when it's the Rixer and it's Roser who are literally jealous of the guy. After AGDQ 2014, Bonesaw started taking off on Twitch, averaging around 300 to 500 viewers every stream from what I recall. We all collectively felt that fame had started to get to his head. In the Rixer's own words, they're clearly jealous of him being successful, and they're jealous of his run being successful. You even have manipulative tweets like this tweet from Zemipu. My heart goes out to the Jak community. I'm sorry you're being represented by a runner who doesn't give a shit about you. Under this tweet that Zemipu made, which is deliberately designed to make Bonesaw look bad, probably because Zemi is jealous of him, go figure, you see the Rixer say true. Right under that though, Spike Vegeta says, much respect to you guys, and I don't know the situation, but nobody else submitted Jak and Daxter. So they are mad because Bonesaw577 got a run into a GDQ marathon that nobody else submitted a run for, and he didn't represent them enough. That's why they're mad. That seems a bit ridiculous. Zemi then says, it's hard to explain why I made this tweet. He has no reason he made the tweet. He's pretty much saying other people's feelings so he can get likes on Twitter. I guess reason number one is to show my Jack friends support I feel they need. Okay, there you go. Seems like Zemi has no idea what's going on, and he's being manipulated by the Jack and Daxter community to criticize and to not like Bonesaw, which isn't uncommon in the speedrunning community. This type of manipulation, it continues. Later in the twit longer, Rixer says, we get into the real grime zone. Guys, the next 8 paragraphs are referred to as the real grime zone. I'm going to spoil it. Bonesaw does not exist in these 8 paragraphs. He does literally nothing, except he makes a tweet that actually would favor Rixer, and Rixer says he didn't do enough. These 8 paragraphs are about complaining because the AGDQ 2017, 2018, and 2019 runs weren't very good and the chat only cared about Bonesaw. Bonesaw made a tweet saying that, don't be disrespectful, guys. And the Rixer says, I appreciate the attempt a lot from Bonesaw, but don't be disrespectful is not a powerful enough statement that is going to stop an onslaught of harassment. Therefore, it's Bonesaw's fault, right? Everything that happened after 2016 is Bonesaw's fault because he made a tweet that didn't validate the Rixer's clearly ridiculous opinion enough, right? That's absurd. This is what manipulation looks like. What's happening right now, and it's happened in the past, the Rixer and its Roser and probably other people in the Jack and Daxter community are jealous of Bonesaw, and they're trying to manipulate the situation to make Bonesaw look bad. The next paragraph talks about AGDQ 2017. It talks about Headstrong's GDQ 2017 run, where the chat was mostly talking about Bonesaw and not talking about Headstrong. Bonesaw has literally nothing to do with this. The Rixer gets mad at him because he's an entitled, whiny basement dweller. In AGDQ 2018, Outrageous Josh would also run Jack and Daxter, and he would see a similar treatment. Well, guess what? It literally has nothing to do with Bonesaw. Bonesaw started none of this. It's completely uninvolved from Bonesaw. In fact, most of the people that are talking about Bonesaw in the chat, they don't even care about Bonesaw. They're mad because GDQ banned him for no reason, and they're mad because GDQ changed from an organization that cared about speedrunning and wanted to have fun and put on a good show into an organization that doesn't give a crap about speedrunning, wants to farm as much money as possible from speedrunners that basically are completely whipped. People don't like it, and the chat didn't like it. And Bonesaw represented a fun part of speedrunning that completely died at GDQ. The last story arc in this story, that has nothing to do with Bonesaw, by the way, even though it intentionally was framed to make Bonesaw look bad. At GDQ 2019, I got into the marathon with Jack 3. Guys, I'm going to spoil this story. His run sucked, and he's mad because it sucked. I was happy to play and show the game off at the marathon, but when I was there a few days before my run, I made a subconscious decision to use the same strategy that got Bonesaw's run popular, and that was to meme it up to hell. Later on, he says, regardless though, I'm embarrassed and I hate how I had to push myself to such an uncomfortable level to try and help the community I love. I was dealing with extremely bad anxiety at the time with multiple breakdowns and more. I went as far to test the boundaries of the GDQ runner policy to help my friends. I made a fool out of myself. Dude, what the hell does this have to do with Bonesaw? How is Bonesaw an abuser here? Why did you frame this as Bonesaw is an abuser? You're just admitting that you made a bad decision at GDQ. The 2018 and 2017 GDQs, Bonesaw was completely absent from. He then goes on to complain about more nonsense that's unrelated to Bonesaw and Bonesaw had no opinion on and no decision in making. He then says, you've seen the SGDQ 2016 run from a viewer's perspective, and now you get to hear what the run was like from another runner's perspective. I don't want to paint him as a full-on villain, because I do believe he is a nice guy to the viewers on his stream. Wow, that's ridiculous. The guy's not a villain at all. If anybody's a villain, it should be the Rixer and it's Roser. You guys are deliberately manipulating the situation because you're jealous of him. You guys are actually the abusive ones here. You can see the same type of framing manipulation later on from the Rixer's friend, It's Roser. We're going to go into that later, but first, Bonesaw actually replied to this paste spin with a paste spin of his own titled, Never Contact Me Again. He says right off the bat, I just want to tell everyone in the speedrun community, steer clear of the Rixer and Roser. A lot of Bonesaw's pacespin is just contradicting the Rixer's story. I find it interesting because Bonesaw actually admits to fault in his pacespin. He says a lot of the problems in the Jak and Daxter community were because of his own ego and the fact that he was upset when people would beat his world records. He actually takes responsibility for some of the issues and takes blame for it, something that was completely absent from the Rixer's pacespin. The Rixer just made it seem like Bonesaw had some mental issues and that he wanted to really solve the problems and be an adult here, even though that's definitely not what's happening. I'm going to link this in the description if you want to read it. I'll also link the Rixer's pacespin in the description. But there were two more things that really jumped out at me in Bonesaw's reply. Number one, he says multiple times, "The Rixer and Roser, what do you want from me?" He says this a ton of times, and I completely agree. What exactly do they want Bonesaw to do in this situation? Bonesaw is literally absent from the majority of the Rixer's expose on Bonesaw. He doesn't have any involvement. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't even exist. He then says, this has nothing to do with the Jak and Daxter community anymore, because I did grow up and I did cool down and I don't take world records seriously anymore because it has ruined a lot of my relationships, and I have no excuse for that. But you two have been harassing me for years and it needs to stop. The reason why I don't want to join the community is because of you two. Why can't you see that? To all of those in the speedrun community, steer clear of Rixer and Roser. They are dangerous people. They will screw with you and turn people against you. They consistently, literally every year, have contacted me in some form or using other people to tell me to join the community. Let's get this right. I banned Roser after 2 minutes of him following me on Twitter, and no, I don't regret it. So it seems like what's really happening is Rixer and Roser have personal problems, and they have problems on their own end. They don't like Bonesaw, and they keep harassing him. And they're highly manipulative. I think it's really obvious to figure out what Rixer and Roser really want if you read one of the paragraphs in this pacespin near the bottom. Every single GDQ or ESA, we have a small collective talk in the community about what Jak game we should submit, what has the highest likeliness of getting in, what hasn't been shown yet, etc. But it all feels for granted if we have to worry about Bonesaw submitting. We have to ditch our plans to try and beat Bonesaw from getting in every time, in fear of another wave of harassment coming in. Keep in mind, there's no harassment on Bonesaw's end. I don't know who's harassing these guys. It literally has nothing to do with Bonesaw, and it's not Bonesaw harassing them. In fact, they are the ones harassing Bonesaw about this ridiculous claim. Nothing about this paragraph is fair or makes any sense at all. They're acting like they're completely entitled to who runs at GDQ, who runs at ESA, who gets what game in at the marathon. They're acting like they own the community. They own who runs the game. If you don't run it by them, you're not allowed to do it. And if you do it, well, you have to apologize or something. What exactly do they want from Bonesaw? What do they want him to apologize for? They're not framing him completely as the villain, but how is he a villain at all? Why is it a bad thing that they have to compete with Bonesaw to get runs into a highly competitive marathon like GDQ? Everybody in every game has to compete to get runs in. You have to compete on YouTube. You have to come up with the most interesting videos. You have to compete on Twitch. But for some reason, they don't want to compete with Bonesaw when it comes to submitting runs in, and they claim that he's being very unfair to them or something. It feels so goddamn scummy that we can't just talk it out because he isn't willing to communicate with us. Even though he said dozens of times for the past 6 years, he doesn't want to interact with them. He doesn't want to contact them. Imagine if Bonesaw was actually a part of our community. We could let him run, but then we would all be on the couch. We would actually have a representative of our community that we want people to see and run our game. That's what the community's really after. That's what the Rixer and Roser are really after. They're after control. They want to control Bonesaw. They want to control the narrative. They want to be on the couch so that they can make really annoying, unfair commentary. I can guarantee you, if they got on the couch for his marathon, they would make really unfair, snide remarks to Bonesaw and they would put him down. I am still in deep confusion as to what the reason is that he doesn't want to speak to us. It boggles my mind to this day, and none of us have an answer. I have an answer for you, Rixer. It's because you're entitled, you're whiny, you're manipulative, and you keep framing him as a really bad guy. In fact, you tried to get him canceled on Twitter when he literally did nothing. Bonesaw actually lost Twitter followers over this. You genuinely look like a terrible person by posting this. It's in your best interest to delete this and never talk about it again. And please never contact Bonesaw again. Fortunately, most people on Twitter were disagreeing with Rixer's ridiculous and manipulative paste spin. Most people were saying that this is really unfair or filled with lies, and you shouldn't try to piggyback your personal drama on somebody that you don't like on the backs of actual accounts of abuse or alleged accounts of abuse. What are you even speaking up about, though? I just can't understand how him acting like a bit of a prick is worth a call-out post like this, framed in the way that makes it look like something really bad has been going on. What's the goal? Ricky says, I wrote 7 pages on what I'm speaking out about. What isn't clear? He's blocked me and my friends in every possible way. All I want to do is tie up the loose ends, but there's no speaking to the man. That's a load of BS. I personally have no idea what the point of this paste spin was, other than to make Bonesaw look like a bad person and try to get people to dislike him, particularly because he's jealous of Bonesaw. What else was the point? Him blocking you, who cares about? Do you guys know how many people have blocked me on Twitter and in Twitch and on Discord? I don't know, 100 in the speedrunning community? Guess what? I don't care. A lot of them are because somebody made up some lies about me, or they said something about me that's completely wrong or not my character at all, and another person got really offended and blocked me out of I don't even know why they're blocking me. I genuinely don't care. It's their decision. It's their life. They can do what they want. Why is Rixer so butt mad? Again, this comes down to control. He wants to control Bonesaw. He's jealous that he has viewers and followers and that he has a legacy, and the Rixer doesn't. Later on, you can see Rixer's abusive, manipulative friend Roser come in and debate the same BS. That means you can disregard the whole thing. It's nowhere near the same level as abuse, but just that he has been getting away with the behavior mentioned for so long in multiple communities needs to be spoken about. What exactly is the behavior that he's getting away from? And also, it's not that it's nowhere near the same level as abuse. It's not even close to the same thing. These things are completely different. Some guy blocking you on Twitter because you're a manipulative asshole is not abuse. That's you being a jackass and him not wanting to deal with you. That's not abusive at all. There's no behavior that he's doing in any communities. Somebody questions the behavior mentioned, and he says it's mainly him pretending to represent the communities of the games he runs on stream, then turning around and making it all about himself instead. I don't care for justice against the guy. I just wanted all the facts out there. This is a lie. He has never pretended to represent the communities, and I can prove this. On top of that, framing the argument is that you don't want justice against the guy. You just want the facts out there. It's assuming that there is justice against the guy at all, but he hasn't done anything. There's no justice to be had against the guy. All you're doing is trying to manipulate the situation with your friend Rixer to make Bonesaw look bad because he doesn't like you for good reason. Look at this conversation from 6 years ago. Here's 2 times from 2014 where Bonesaw says, I just didn't want to interact. I'm not making a god out of myself. I just don't want to get involved. And then the Rixer keeps pressuring him. We just wanted to help. People send me videos with the newest strats all the time. We are speedrunning to get a good time, right? Which is a manipulative thing to say because everyone speedruns for different reasons. And clearly, Bonesaw is not speedrunning to hang out with people in the community. He then says, thanks for the help, dude. I literally just did not want to interact. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's pretty clear since 2014, Bonesaw has wanted nothing to do with the Jak and Daxter community, claiming he's representing the communities when he's not, which that's not even bad or anything. Like, why did the community made up from you and your weird friends on Discord? That's not a community. I think the people that run the game should make up the communities, regardless of who they talk to. Now, fortunately, most people called out Ricky on his manipulation, but some of his fans were actually duped by this, and I think this was Ricky's real goal. It was to deceive people and get people to turn against Bonesaw. For example, Bakuman84, he actually calls Bonesaw probably bipolar because of this paste spin. Rixer, after reading the paste spin, although I don't know that person, you're not the only one who went through that situation. But in other speedrun communities, for example, I was able to integrate into the speedrun community of Call of Duty in Discord after several months. Because some time ago, I knew that 2 people who were bad people there, and then a BO2 runner told me those people were banned forever from the community. So this guy claims he has no clue who Bonesaw is, and then likens him to a guy in his mind who's a really bad person, and was preventing him from joining the community. Bonesaw's situation is not even remotely close to that. Bonesaw was not in the community, has been trying to get away from the community, and doesn't want to contact the Rixer. Later he says, what I don't understand in the pace spin, that person changed completely. I imagine that he's bipolar or wants to be away from speedrun and relationships with other runners. I think he should deserve a great explanation. Bonesaw's not bipolar, or if he is, his behavior here is not bipolar. His behavior here has been pretty consistent. I think his behavior is completely justified too. Here's another guy who's been manipulated into thinking Bonesaw did anything at all that he didn't already admit to. I'll be honest, I used to be a very regular viewer in his stream back in probably 2014 to 2016. And after hearing his disgusting behavior for the first time, I never went back. Anyway, Ricky actually responded and said, please focus less on the paragraph regarding GDQ submissions. I do not think the community is entitled to be the one to run the game. I stated this very clearly in the pace spin I sent to Bonesaw a month ago. The problem is he spent 8 paragraphs in his twit longer complaining that the Jak and Daxter community is entitled to get runs in and that Bonesaw is entitled to give them attention. You can't just simply say, don't focus on that. Don't focus on the bottom 8 paragraphs of my essay. Please ignore the part where I say this is the real grime zone. In the Rixer's tweet to Bonesaw, we can see very clearly how manipulative this guy is and exactly what he wants, which is control over Bonesaw and his audience. The thing I like about GDQ submissions is that everyone gets a chance to show off what they can do. I truly don't mind you running, but it has always felt odd with you never really being a part of the community. Why? It should not feel odd, especially when the community is clearly degenerated into nothing. If you simply ran through the Jak community and said, yo, can I submit Jak 1? I'm sure people would say yes. This is completely ludicrous. Not only that, he sent this a month ago. The last time Bonesaw got a submission in was 2016. That was 4 years ago. This is completely ludicrous, and you can very clearly see the mental damage that the Rixer has suffered over the years. I merely wanted to express my thoughts and hoping that we can move forward on good terms. The Jak community has changed a lot over the years, and I think it's one of the most kind and welcoming places to be. That's a load of BS. You're always welcome to join the Discord. No one is forcing you, but I hope that if you do submit to a marathon of some kind in the future, let us know. That's what the Rixer's after. He's after manipulation, he's after control, and if Bonesaw doesn't submit to his whims, he's going to try and expose him, he's going to try and make him look bad. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on the Rixer and Roser and Bonesaw. Very weird and disturbing stuff is out there, gamers. If you want to support me online, make sure to head over to my Patreon and pledge to become an alpha gamer. Also, you can go to my Twitch channel. I stream 5 days a week from noon to about 5 p.m. We cover drama, and also I do some speedrunning. Also, you can buy my t-shirts. These are game-changing t-shirts. I'll see you guys for the next video.